日本军国主义的军队啊，他找到我的母亲，要侮辱我母亲，我母亲不从，我母亲就搞了反抗，在反抗当中，啊，我母亲手里还抱着我那个弟弟，抱着那18岁的弟弟，那个日本兵呢，他就从我母亲手里把我弟弟夺过来，活在地上关死了。我们讲本来我去啊，那个日本兵拿起他的枪，对我母亲就打了2枪，打了2枪，当时带我母亲也打死了。过了2天，台下又发现我的父亲啊，就把我父亲抓了。我父亲就从1937年那天给他抓走，一抓去就没回来。父亲将被日本人抓走的2天，那天一下也发现我的二姐，发现我二姐，他就连我的二姐，连我逮到我的二姐，要进行侮辱我二姐，我二姐坚决不从，坚决搞了反抗，他把刺刀刺出来，但我13岁姐姐活活的劈掉了，啊，劈掉以后我们就见到我姐姐的尸体，啊，我姐头就给他砍了2板子，啊，以后我就成我搞老五，弟兄2个在那块，在那天天哭。
What struck me was not only did these survivors have to live with these terrible physical and psychic scars, but most of them were dirt poor, poverty-stricken beyond belief. They were crammed into these tiny rooms. They had nothing.
Just a little child, they took it all away. Your blood, your life, your trust, your faith. You died, reborn in pain. Red as the river, looming large, the gate. Darkness in your heart, drowning in hate. I'll dedicate my life to get your stories told. I'll give voice to the voiceless, silenced for too long. Crying out for justice, silenced for too long. Trust me with your pain, I'll take it as my own. I'll fight to get the truth told. My weapon is my word.
All these stones, thousands and thousands of them representing the victims. When I close my eyes, I can almost hear their screams.
"回想当时最后一次送他上那个出租车，他就到机场，真没想到这是永别，所以绝对没想到，非常遗憾。
他试图想把自己融入到这个历史事件中去，他似乎他自己就是这个历史事件中的一员，用自己的争取用自己的切身的这种感受与体会，也写出这本书来。他这本书不是用笔写的，是用心写的。
Nothing? Well, Now I have to go because I woke up late today. Yeah. Okay. Okay, bye.
We met each other in a writer's group. Her book, The Thread of the Silkworm, was about to come out, and she was very excited about that. We just hit it off right away. She was, even at that point, very, very intense and just interested in everything, always asking questions. For her, nothing was impossible. If there was an obstacle, it was a challenge. It was something to be overcome, and maybe something that even represented an opportunity, potentially. If the door was closed, she would climb in the window.
When she was in the book mode, she would just stay focused on something forever. And she would just get up at 12 noon, work till 3 or 4 in the morning, and start the whole thing over the next day.
At the beginning, she really very happy to get the story out.
And those survivors really trust her very, very much. So she really did not want to fail them.
我家的爸爸出来洗菜，被日本兵看到了，开3枪，把我爸爸打死在地下，倒在地下。可怜妈妈听到爸爸死了，妈妈就出来看爸爸，妈妈也被他打1枪，妈妈也打死了。可怜的妈妈倒在爸爸怀里头。这时候我才11岁啊，我听到妈妈死的了，可怜我就跑出来看，看到地下一滩血，身上全是血，我还没有喊出来的爸爸，日本兵又给我1枪，我这个膀子打断的了，骨头打断的了，就身上烧的这块尽是泡。这个衣服搁着我就剩一顶衣裳，嘴头里就满血，撕过来，喝过去。可怜爷爷就被他冲的头脑子开花，脑浆都血往外淌，身上被他倒出来，身怀7个月的孩子。被他偷出来之后，要抢我婶婶的钱，可怜我婶婶跪在地下求他饶恕，不饶恕，还是偷。婶婶叫救命，就婶婶被他们5个人的抢，能进呀！晚上出大雪，晚上啊到海了。那个大雪往下流，小孩子呢就跟着血淌，小孩子死的了。可怜婶婶呢，一呢就发高烧，婶婶也死的了。
那个2个日本兵啊，枪啊就断下来了，枪一断下来之后啊，他把我们所有的人啊一起 围在那个中间，就连我们一起围在中间，弄枪啊朝外面盖，盖出去的人啊，都是老年人、老头儿、老太、妇女，还有一帮的这个小孩儿，我也在内，小孩儿，一帮的年轻的人，就在那个时候就被他带走了。到了第二天，街头巷尾，大家一起出来，就是互相的来询问这个问题，说你家的小孩还回来了，或者你家的丈夫还回来了，就互相提问，都不知道，都回答不晓得，都没有来讲。这个滩边上啊，一看啊，嚯，这滩边上一起混那个混着的，直接混的都有。再一看啊，死人，全是死人，他就绑着一个绑子一个绑子拴住，这样子拴住，就规律是这样的。这个绑子他是走后面打的，啪一打一起呛下去了，一个呛一个呛一个，是吧？你跑也不能跑到这个河里面去。
到了江东门桥，那个桥呢，战争的时候都已经炸掉了，都毁掉了，为了打仗。河水这时候很浅，冬天河水很少。这个过河怎么过？因为我们到上清河去啊，必须要经过那个河道，要过河。这时候大家一看到河底下垫了很多尸体，就铺了一条路，用尸体铺了一条路。这个路是那是恐怕日本侵略军拉着中国人给拖到那儿垫的一条路，上面就铺的一层木板。我和祖母都是走到那个木板上过来的，两边不是头就是脚，不是头就是脚，就这么一路走过河的，然后走到上清河。
I remember sometimes just having a physical reaction to the atrocities that were on my word processor. I remember on various occasions I started trembling convulsively and not being able to stop, and then it would take some time before I stopped shaking. And also I noticed tremendous hair loss at the time, like just patches of hair disappearing.
One day I remember vividly, she seems very, very dark in the mood. I can see she's very unhappy and depressed. Sad. I said, are you sure you really want to continue to write this book? Because as a mother, I always worry about her health. And she said, yes, I have to. Even that bad, I have to continue. She said, look, those survivors, no one seems to pay attention to them. I'm the one have to make this atrocity known to the world. And thinking about what they go through. What I'm going through is nothing, so I have to finish it.
What's really chilling for me was to discover that many of these atrocities were committed not by people who are diabolical serial types by nature, but by people who were very ordinary citizens. I still have a problem thinking about it and talking about it sometimes. The scars for me run pretty deep because it's really shaken my fundamental belief that humans are basically good at heart. I mean, I can never entirely believe that again.
当時日本の軍隊というのはね、排定密機関というものは毎朝起きると殴られる、寝ればで殴られる、そして朝遅いと殴られる、ご飯食べ方が遅いと殴られる、動作が悪いと殴られる、ボタンが外れたやつ殴られる。このようにして当時は軍人精神というものを鍛えられて、こういう教育を受けたわけです。
They were treated like dirt. They were the lowest of the low. And suddenly, here they are in the capital of China, where they are more powerful than the lords of creation in that city. It's easy to see how all those months, or a lifetime perhaps, of pent-up frustration could explode in uncontrollable violence in Nanking.
我々がある部落に入りました。そうしますと、古い兵隊が部落に残っているところの農民を連れてくるんです。その農民を木に縛り付ける。木に縛り付けて目隠しする。私たちはその縛り付けたところが手前から約10メートルぐらい離れたところに一列にずーっと並ぶんです。一番突撃わーって行くんです。そして刺すんです。ところが剣の幅はこのくらいある。剣の幅は。さっと刺すと入っていかないんです。入っていかないで手を滑っちゃう。そうするとこのぐらいしか入らない。そうしますと、中央の目がカーッと開いて、角をパーッと吐くんです。それと古い兵隊がもう一回行く。またやる。ところが、人を殺すということはなかなか難しいんです。そうしますと、古い兵隊が、よく見ておれ。俺が見本を示すからお前たちよく見ておれ。ところが古い兵隊はわーってさっと手を横にしちゃう。そうしますと剣の腹が薄くなっちゃう。そうしますとあばらばらの間にさーっと入ってくる。そういう見本を教えてくれるわけです。こうやって私たちは人を殺す訓練を実際に受けていった。
The Japanese were certainly inculcated for violence once they entered the army, and they were taught to believe that the Chinese were subhuman. In fact, when you look at some of the diaries of Japanese soldiers at the time, you'll see that they refer to the Chinese as as ants or as something of less value than pigs or sheep.
中央人のことをちゃんころって言ってたでしょ。だから劣等民族だよと。だから日本の我々国民は優秀民族だよと。じゃあこれは当時ね、私たちはね、悪いと思ってないんですよ。これはすなわち天皇のためであり、日本のためであり、日本の国民のためであると。だからいいことだろうというふうに私たちは思ってたから。
It was easy for the Japanese soldier to take Chinese life because he didn't even value his own life. Next to the emperor, all human life was considered meaningless. I talked with one Japanese soldier who told me that he was taught that duty was as heavy as a mountain and his own life was as light as a feather, and that the greatest honor for a Japanese soldier was to come home dead.
She wanted the process by which people are trained to see other people as less than human to be revealed. And Iris was cognizant that it's extremely easy to do. And she wanted this event recorded because you don't know who in some future time in some other country reads this book and says, no, not me, I'm not going to let this happen in my country or in my place or in my town.
People are always arguing about the numbers of dead. They say it's 140,000, 300,000, but that's not even the point, because what we do know for sure is many more would have died if that small group of Westerners had not stayed behind and set up that 2.5 square mile safe haven in the middle of Nanking. I realized this was a story with heroes as well as villains. The most fascinating of all, I think, was John Rabe. He was the head of the Safety Zone Committee. He was a German businessman and, ironically, a Nazi humanitarian.
He would go throughout the city wearing his swastika armband, and the Japanese actually respected the Germans more than the Americans because they had a relationship with Germany at the time. And often he would drive through the city or walk through the city, and he would try to stop atrocities that were in progress.
He gave refuge to over 600 Chinese in his own house, and for days would go sleepless, ever vigilant of the constant threat of marauding Japanese soldiers looking for women. He and the other Westerners would risk their lives to collect and bring in food to the 200,000 in the safety zone. He also constantly petitioned the Japanese embassy in Nanking to stop the raping and murdering. Consequently, the people of Nanking called him the living Buddha. Rabe returned to Germany in February 1938 after the worst of the massacre was over. And then he just vanished. I could never get his story out of my mind, so I decided to find out what happened to him.
Finally, she located John Rabe's granddaughter, Ursula Reinhardt, and then she wrote to her, and Reinhardt told her there's a diary, and then Iris is so excited, and I remember she called me immediately. You know, he said, I not only found John Rabe, and he had a diary.
I tracked down the descendants of John Rabe in Germany and learned that he had kept a 2,000-page diary of the massacre, a diary which on various occasions the family had actually considered tossing out because the contents were too painful for them to read.
Ursula told me that when he returned from Nanking, he went around Berlin giving a series of public lectures and even sent Adolf Hitler a detailed report about the slaughter. A few days later, the Gestapo showed up at his house, and Rabe was told to never talk about Nanking ever again. After the war, because of his Nazi party membership, the Allies would not give him a work permit. So to survive, he sold his treasured Chinese artifacts and all his possessions until his family was reduced to living off acorn soup.
A letter from Chinese people arrived and told him how they adored him, how he had saved Chinese people, and they gathered money and sent care parcels to John Rabe.
Unfortunately, by then, Rabe was a very sick man, and a few years later, in 1950, he died of a stroke.
It's really hard to discredit the Rabe diaries. His evidence is far too powerful, and he can't be discredited the same way. I mean, he is a third-party witness to what happened. He was there on the scene. So how do you deny his reports?
In December of 1937, Japanese troops invaded the city of Nanking, China. Now, after 60 years, the story of what took place there has been written about in a new book called The Rape of Nanking. It was written by Iris Chang, and we're pleased to have her here on this broadcast this evening.
Thank you.
First printing is about 2,500 copies. It turns out a lot of people, especially the Oriental, the Chinese, want to buy that books. And they just couldn't find the books in the bookstore.
Actually, the biggest help came from her community, because they started talking to Basic Books. They said, this is outrageous.
And they're irises.
Iris came along when we almost lost hope to bring the massacre of Nanking to the attention of the world, particularly in the Western world. And I immediately offered to promote Iris' book in Canada. provided that I could buy 2,000 of the books.
To write this book.
This chapter of history is so important to every Chinese people's heart, especially starting from the 80s. The Japanese ultranationalists, they start to, deny this chapter of history or deny the atrocities. So they really feel that Iris is helping them to express their feelings, their thoughts, and their sense of injustice.
The 60th anniversary of the rape of Nanking, we organized a commemorative concert, and every seat was filled, and Iris was surprised at the turnout. They came to talk to Iris and also to discuss how to bring this knowledge to the rest of the world.
What happened when Iris's book came out was that so many other families like mine who had basically been suffering in silence like my father had, alone and isolated, saw that here was this book that declared how many hundreds of thousands of people had experienced it. It lent a humanity to what they had suffered.
The reviews started to pour in, and everybody saw this was a major book. A typical book tour lasts 2 weeks. A great book tour lasts 2 months. She did a book tour for over a year. It was unheard of. We kept extending it and extending it and extending it. That's how long the interest sustained itself. There's a much more important story here than just the horrible ways in which people were massacred.
I feel very fortunate that The Rape of Nanking did become a bestseller. I didn't want the story to just disappear. I didn't want all those thousands of people's lives to vanish into oblivion. That's why I wrote it. What really bothered me was that powerful forces out there in Japan wanted the story to go away. I just felt it was insulting to the victims, and I think that individuals have to fight to prevent these acts of genocide from happening and then being forgotten.
If you look at the title of her book, The Forgotten Holocaust, that's how people feel. It's a tremendous loss that was forgotten.
As you point out, there were more people killed in Nanking than in Hiroshima and Nagasaki combined, and yet we have amnesia about Nanking. Why?
Well, I think the Cold War is the main reason why we have this worldwide amnesia on the subject. After 1949, neither the People's Republic of China nor the Republic of China and Taiwan wanted to push the Japanese for reparations or an apology, because both of them, ironically, now needed Japan as an ally against each other, and they needed Japan's economic and political support. To this day, I think there is a reluctance on the part of both governments to broach the subject with Japan.
Well, I think that Iris's book stirred up a hornet's nest here. I think that people from the revisionist school who want to minimize or deny Japanese wartime excesses were provoked by it. There's a real range of opinion here. Nanjing has become a very important and powerful symbol of what Japan did to China. It ranges from total denial, it never happened, it's a pure fabrication of Chinese propagandists, to, yes, lots of bad things happen, but those sorts of things tend to happen in war, to what is often called the massacre school, which are people who actually are doing excellent research about what went on in Nanjing and detailing the extent of the atrocities, particularly against non-combatants.
It was in the early 80s that Japanese right-wing nationalists started to lash out at those in the massacre school.
Some of those individuals in Japan, courageous individuals, have faced ostracism, death threats, and even assassination attempts. For example, a few years ago, the mayor of Nagasaki was shot in the chest merely for stating his belief. that Emperor Hirohito bore some responsibility for World War II.
Katsuichi Honda, a popular journalist and author, wrote detailed accounts of the atrocities, and because of death threats, has worn a wig and dark glasses in public ever since.
中国の旅というね、ルポを書いたわけですね。その記憶にある人たちで生き残っている人たち、それにひたすら聞き歩くことを一番重点を置いたわけですね。脅迫もあったし、それから会社にはもちろんだけど、私の自分の家にも来ましたよね。だから私が留守の間に家族に子供の幼稚園、子供の行ってるところまで、小学校まで行ったんだから、それでこれはちょっと危険だと思ってね、それからうちを引っ越してしまって、以後はもう住所を公表しないことにした。
She received some very ugly hate mail. For that reason, she kept her address private. I never even had her private phone number. I emailed her on everything. I never had her address. She was concerned about safety, but she certainly wasn't going to stop.
And yet there are people in Japan, prominent businessmen, politicians, academics, so not just the lunatic fringe, who say that the whole thing is a lie, that the massacre never happened. It's incredible.
Nanjing, no ma'am. We did not commit any massacre there in 1937.
None?
That was fabricated, complete fabrication by the Chinese.
You don't think eyewitness testimonies, Japanese soldiers' diaries, and film footage, and international...
Oh, those film footages were made up by the National Chinese Propaganda Ministry.
Unfortunately, a mountain of evidence on the Nanking Massacre, including thousands of archival materials in 4 different languages, as well as photographic and motion picture evidence and widespread news coverage, has not deterred these Japanese extremists from dismissing it all as propaganda or forgeries.
We may have killed a few thousand, but certainly not in the order of 100,000, 200,000, or 300,000.
Nobody was out there with their calculator, click, 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 that many people died, that many people were raped. I mean, nobody will ever know. So if the debate is always fixated on getting the right number, and you can't say anything until you get the right number, the debate will never go forward. And I think when people see interviews with survivors, or hear interviews with them, they suddenly realize this did happen. It cannot be denied any longer.
不要戳母亲，不要戳母亲。这日本民不听。这痛倒的这个时候呢，我的弟弟掉在地下，哇，在地下哭。那个日本人抓着刺刀走我弟弟屁股上面一刺刀，就把我弟弟摔得好远。这个时候，我看到把我弟弟摔得好远啊，哭动一下子摔在地下。我的弟弟哇哭，我就赶快跑过去，趴到我弟弟身上，叫他不要哭，你不要哭，我保护你。我就趴在他的身上。我的姐姐也拼命的站在鬼子边缘，讲不要戳妈妈，不要戳妈。那鬼子呢也拔着刺刀戳我姐姐，把我姐姐也戳倒了。这个时候呢，日本兵开始戳我的弟弟了，我的弟弟一个一个被他全部捅死了。就在这个时候，我要大哭大喊的，不要戳我妈妈，不要戳我妈妈。这个时候我看他戳我弟弟，我喊弟弟也不走，最后我昏过去了。我就绕了死人堆，底下全是血。跨过死人以后，我就向那边走，顺着那个声音走，结果看到了两边都是死人。可是我弟弟向前面爬，我就把他抱过来。抱过来一看，那个身上的血直朝地下掉，就结成冰了。那个天特别冷，我就抱着我的弟弟，轻轻地跑到找我妈妈， 把他放到我妈妈身边。这时候我妈妈看到我弟弟来了，我妈妈挣扎的拼命的那个拽衣服，主要是把衣服拽下来给我弟弟吃来。这时候我弟弟爬到我妈妈面前，拼命的洗奶。我弟弟也不懂事，他小，他就知道喝奶，但是在他吃奶的时候，我妈妈呼吸的那个刀口在冒血泡泡，我看了非常难过。但是我就拼命的推，说妈妈你醒来啊！我推他，他也不想。
They were trained.
How do you mean trained?
By the Chinese authority to say those lines.
They were given these stories?
Yes.
I looked into the survivors' eyes, and I heard their stories. For people to say they've made it all up, that's just unbelievable. The Japanese should listen to their own soldiers, and they should look into the eyes of the survivors themselves. Because this mindset is exactly what led to the massacre in the first place.
She was arguing, or she'd get angry, she'd get emotional. Not because of a personal attack, because they deny. Why people don't want to face the truth?
The problem is that the conservative political elite more or less tries to promote collective amnesia. And so they have been whitewashing this history for decades. Japan needs to make a dramatic gesture that shows that it takes responsibility for what happened, acknowledges the extent of those atrocities, and is committed to continue to teach about those, to make sure that this is not forgotten. And my feeling is the revisionists are shooting themselves in the foot. The more that they try to deny, minimize, shift responsibility, the more of a backlash they're attracting. And this isn't just from overseas, it's from within Japan as well.
In recent years, a multi-ethnic grassroots movement has emerged internationally to combat these efforts to rewrite history. A movement that includes not only the Chinese, the Koreans, the Filipinos, leading members of the Jewish community, but also many Japanese Americans, Japanese Canadians, and Japanese nationals who recognize that human rights issues transcend those of nationality and ethnicity.
Here, ここ南京の地に来て分かりますように、私たち日本人はたくさんの罪を犯しております。罪には責任が伴うんですね。まず、戦争で、大きな被害を受けられた方々に、その、直接の、賠償、それから謝罪をするというのは、当然のことですけれども、同時に、私たち日本人が私たち自身の歴史を、自分たちのものにしていくっていうですね、そういう意味でも、重要だというふうに思ってるわけです。自分がですね、どういう歴史の上に今あるのかっていうことを、しっかり知っていくっていうことは、同時に今とこれからの未来を、どう生きていくかっていうですね、その戒めとなっていくというふうに思っています。
希望日本政府能够承认错误，承认侵略不对，能够向人民低头，向人民认罪负罪，那我心里才能平衡，不然我们心中平衡不了，
next book was the Chinese in America. She told me numerous times she considered that sort of a holiday project, a vacation after all of the atrocities of Nanking. Emotionally, it was a little bit easier on her, so I think on several levels she felt more ready to have the family, and also that it was just time. She was over the moon when Christopher came.
And she seemed to me throughout the period of Rape of Nanking and well into the period of the Chinese in America, focused on the future, thinking about new projects, happy with her family life, happy with the increasing visibility of the Chinese American organizations that she cared about greatly.
We, the people and the fighting forces of the United States, in our own blood.
Next night, you let us swim in Manila Bay.
Research for my fourth book started with an oral history project on Bataan POWs. It was an American veteran who wrote and asked me to tell their stories. The same day the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor, they also attacked the Philippines, and about 10,000 U.S. and 70,000 Filipino soldiers were forced to surrender. And that led to what became known as the Bataan Death March.
When we do these interviews and talk to these veterans, it's difficult. It's difficult to hear the stories and to read the accounts of what these men went through and what they experienced. You walk away with these thoughts sort of burdening you. I could only imagine that after 11 months of, again, dealing with this topic and hearing these stories over and over, that must have been a tremendous weight, a tremendous emotional burden.
I think she took it on because she believed the story needed to be told. She saw herself as a facilitator for those who had been muted by others, by those in authority, by those who had an interest in not hearing these stories be told.
And justice for all means justice for all. And she was not looking for justice for Chinese or for the victims of the Nanjing massacre. She was looking for justice for all.
You know, her experience with what she learned writing The Rape of Nanking, she was afraid of concentrated power in government. And so some of the things that the Bush administration was doing just completely set her off. I mean, she would react very, very strongly to that.
22 pistol out of his holster.
You know, I lie awake at night with the voices of the Bataan survivors going round and round in my head. Just like Nanking.
The guy's Filipino there.
Voices are different.
Knocked him off.
The details are different. The language is different, but the story's the same. But these men, just like the people in Nanking, poured their hearts out to me. Somebody had to listen, to record and validate their experience by making it public. I couldn't turn away, just like I couldn't turn away before. And I also think it's important to remember these stories, to remind us that no matter how civilized we think we are, it doesn't take much for us to get to the point where we can massacre each other without a second thought. And in the end, I'm left with one question. When will the madness end?
And sometimes she didn't tell us as much. She just kept to herself, working all the time.
At that time, she was complaining that she couldn't eat, she couldn't sleep. It seemed like it was worse than it had ever been before.
We notice she is very exhausted. That's how I feel her health go down. And she couldn't eat very well either. She didn't have much appetite and couldn't sleep well. And of course, we are very concerned.
Yeah. She had a baby. She already had the 4th book to write and all the other things. Yeah. And somehow it's just too much for her.
She was going on a research tour, and she was getting ready for that. She wasn't sleeping during the day. She was up all day, and she was up all night, and she was up all day, and she was up all night. So she was probably up for 3 or 4 days straight before she went on the trip.
She felt she just had to get out there and interview as many of these survivors as she could as quickly as possible. The time was against them and against her. One Monday, I checked my messages on the voicemail, and there was a call that said, "It's me," no name, but I knew who it was. "Help, I'm in Kentucky, and this number, help me." And I called the number, and it was a hotel, and all they told me was that Iris had checked out.
She physically broke down in August when during the trip she interviewed survivor of the Bataan death match. It's only 3 months, so it happened very fast. Yes, we really a lot of questions we couldn't answer.
I was up there twice after her collapse in Kentucky. And, both times she was very flat. I think her drive, her optimism, all of those defining characteristics, it was just, it was like she was suddenly flat. Whereas before she was just a vibrant ball of energy.
After she had her breakdown, she was depressed, and then the medicine that she was given made her even more sluggish. They thought it would be a long, long time before she was, back to normal. Or probably never back to normal.
And she knew she wasn't herself. On some level she did know that. And something, had profoundly changed for her.
She was very sad and very frightened. She was, I felt, very cognizant of losing the person she once was. And that Iris Chang was gone and would never come. No medicine, no therapy was ever going to bring it back. And she knew it.
After she died, it seems part of me died too. But I try to think more positively now because she died so young. I think we can do is to continue her unfinished work and her dream.
You are going to find that we live in a world in which international law has much less to do with actual justice than international politics and money. A world in which those who have power often believe that they are above the truth. My greatest hope
is that a few of you in this auditorium today will actually serve as crusaders for truth, beauty, and justice in the future. People like that are needed to create a better world for the next generation of humankind on this planet and to ensure the survival of our civilization. Please believe in the power of one. One person can make an enormous difference in this world. One person, actually just one idea, can start a war or end one. You as one individual can change millions of lives. So think big. Do not limit your vision, and do not ever compromise your dreams or ideals.
I gave voice to the voiceless. Now I'm silencing my own. What I've left behind, remember, in you my spirit lives on. Find my light, pass it on.